Chrystia Freeland there, speaking after holding an emergency meeting with her provincial counterparts on Alberta's threat to pull out of the Canada Pension Plan. Freeland saying the meeting after it that it is Alberta's right to leave, but she's very much against the move, saying it would impact every Canadian. She has appointed an actuary to evaluate Alberta's share of the pension fund pie. For more on this, Federal Employment Minister Randy Boissonnault joins us. He's a member of Parliament from Alberta, one of only 2 Liberal MPs in the province. And Minister Boissonnault, thanks for taking the time for Power Play.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me on.
Alberta's government saying the province pays too much into the Canada Pension Plan for the benefits they receive. Their report is estimating Albertans could save something like $5 billion in the first year alone by moving to an Alberta plan. Do you think this threat to the CPP is a real one, or is this just politics?
Well, that's a question that's best placed to Danielle Smith and to her finance minister, Nate Horner. I can tell you that the federal government is and I are very clearly committed to working with Albertans to keep them in the Canada Pension Plan. I'm an Albertan. I want to see my fellow Albertans stay in the Canada Pension Plan. There was a meeting of finance ministers today when finance ministers talked about how much Albertans have contributed to the country and also indicated serious concern about the effects of Alberta pulling out of the CPP, what it would do to the Canada Pension Plan, which is one of the best plans in the world, one of the best managed plans in the world. And Todd, I was talking with residents in my riding of Edmonton Centre just last night, seniors, and they're like, please, Randy, do whatever you can to keep us in the CPP. It's the best managed, it's the lowest cost. We stabilized it in our first mandate in 2016. And just to take a look at the investment numbers, Todd, over the last 20 years, the investment board of the CPP has taken the fund from $36 billion to over $500 billion. And there's nothing on the table from the Alberta government to share with Albertans and Canadians how they would possibly manage a fund that well and be able to produce the kind of returns that Albertans enjoy as part of the CPP today.
Alberta's government, Randy, as you know, has said the province would be owed something to the effect of $334 billion out of the Canada Pension Plan. I know the federal government disputes that number. Alberta wants to know what your number is. How much of CPP assets would they be able to take if they were to leave? Can you give us an amount?
The meeting today, the finance minister was really clear, Todd, that we will ask, and she has asked the chief actuary of Canada to take a look at that particular set of numbers. And I think if we quote Trevor Toomby, economist from the University of Calgary, the LifeWorks numbers, the Alberta government numbers are simply bonkers. And today in the meeting, it was clear, because it was raised with the finance ministers, that if by the math that the Alberta government put on the table, if Alberta, BC, and Ontario were to all three decide to step out of the CPP, they would somehow be owed over 120% of the fund. Like, we'd be paying them to leave the CPP. It's just nutty. It doesn't make any sense. And so we will take the time that we need to get those numbers. And if the Alberta government goes ahead and throws a referendum out to myself and fellow Albertans, I will be leading the charge on the Remain side, because it just makes sense. And it's never a smart move. You asked at the start, Todd, if this was just politics. I certainly hope not, because it's never good. It's just simply wrong to politicize pensions and to make people here in Alberta nervous. There's lots on people's plates right now, and they don't need their own government tinkering with their pension income.
You've said that number, $334 billion, Randy, is quote bonkers. Can you give us at least a range of what it might be, half of that or less? Can you give us a sense of when you might be able to share that number with Albertans?
Well, the chief actuary is going to study this. We'll be able to share a timeline when we get a sense from the chief actuary how much time they think it will take. But look, I mean, Todd, we got 12% of the population of the country, 16% of the GDP. And look, I think the reason that the Alberta government went in and said we're paying more into the CPP, we've got a very young population here. The government of Alberta itself had a whole appeal to bring people to the province, which, quite frankly, I love the idea. Alberta is a great place to work and grow up and live and raise a family. And our province is one of the youngest provinces. And I talked to a young guy, Troy, who is at Purelator, and he's been there for 9 years. He started when he was 18 or 19. He said, Randy, I know my pension date. Tell me that we're going to be able to stay in the CPP, because I know what my retirement income will be. I know what I have to do to supplement it. But this is a 28-year-old that has been paying into the CPP for 9 years and does not want Danielle Smith to touch it. I'm getting hashtags, hands off our pensions. And people are sending me letters, dozens of letters, hundreds of letters a day saying, please defend our pension. So I do not know why the province of Alberta is doing this. They've got a big convention coming up this weekend. Maybe that's the answer, but it literally makes no sense. And the Albertans that are reaching out to me are fierce defenders of the CPP, and so am I.
The finance minister has said this is an urgent priority, of course, to get a sense of where this is going to go. She said this would be a huge mistake if Alberta was to leave, although the province does have the right to do that. How far is your government willing to go to try and stop this?
We are going to do what any responsible federal government would do, which is, speak with Albertans and Canadians in full sentences about what the risks are. And as I've said on this show before, it's a one-way ticket should we as Albertans decide to leave the CPP. It's like a divorce with the CPP. You don't get to come back. And I look, if we take a look at the Alberta government's own internal documents commissioned by then Premier Kenney, that landed on his desk and the desk of then Finance Minister Travis Taves. It says very clearly, I think on page 3, that there is no confidence by Alberta officials that the Alberta Investment Management Corporation could manage a fund, could actually put enough money into a fund and return the kind of investment returns to Albertans and provide them with the level of pension for the amount of premiums they're paying. They simply had no confidence in the Alberta government's ability to do that. And that was their own people giving advice to the Premier and the Finance Minister of the day. So the question to the Premier and her Finance Minister is, why are you doing this? Why are you going after pensioners? It's wrong. So take your job seriously and get on with the real issues of housing and opioid addictions and actually growing up our economy and focusing on oil and gas and greening our economy. I mean, maybe she's doing this because she put a pause on renewables that has scared $12 billion of investments from our province and probably another $20 billion that's going to leave our province. So if this is a massive look over here distraction because she made some bad calls, then say so and move on and get on with the business of governing and stop scaring pensioners.
Randy Boissonnault is the Federal Minister of Employment. He's also an MP for the riding of Edmonton Centre. Thanks for your time, Randy. As always, much appreciated.
All the best. Take care.